What happens when you take the rule of improv, yes and use it to rewrite your life? My guest this week is Andrew Stadelberger. From losing his father on 9/11 to comedy stages to the world of advertising and music, Andrew kept saying yes to change and built on it. Today, he's the founder of Player Coach, a creative agency born from grit, imagination, and the drive to turn setbacks into fuel. In this episode, Andrew shares how yes and became more than a performance tool. It became a philosophy for building business, community, and legacy. Don't forget to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. And don't forget, Today is the Day offers many different resources, tools, coaching, consulting for businesses and individuals to help you on your journey to better connect to yourself, to your team, to your business, to your life. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Jody Grunwald, and as I say every single episode, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And today, I have Andrew Stadelberger with me. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. I'm so happy to have you on. We've now worked together in a couple of different ways, and we'll talk about that as we go through this podcast. But it's such a pleasure to have you on here.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to read a little of your bio like I do with everyone. I'm not going to read this whole page, everyone, because he's got such an incredible bio, but I'm going to read some highlights and then we'll have a conversation. Andrew is a seasoned advertising veteran with over 15 years of experience in the advertising and media industry, and he is the founder of Player Coach, and I love the word coach, as everyone knows, an award-winning ad consultancy headquartered in beautiful Asbury Park, New Jersey. Andrew has carved a niche in servicing startups, major brands, and creative studios, and his portfolio boasts some really cool people, and he's won a Clio Award for the use of music and Telly Awards for production work with Toyota and MTV. With an astute understanding of media production, branding, creative strategy, and business development, he has established and managed, national and global partnerships, creative studios, and successful nonprofits. And he does a lot with nonprofit work. But I do want to mention just a couple quick things. Andrew was the president of the Music Playground, a custom music and artist licensing studio. He has worked alongside executives from all over, and it's just super exciting because as I read your bio, I look at all the different things and people you've worked with. You've kind of worked the spectrum. You got the music industry in there, you've got the nonprofits in there. So, oh, and I should read this part. In his free time, he's a triathlete, a musician, a surfer, and a dog dad. Just I have to ask because I've got little Cello here, and people know I have a new puppy. Tell us about the dog real quick.
Oh, shucks, Archie. Archie's my best friend. I adopted Archie about 5 years ago on a pet finder app, 3 in the morning, swiping through in the middle of COVID, and just locked eyes with this beautiful pup and reached out to them about 20 minutes later at like 3 in the morning. They wrote me back saying he's yours, and he's been my best buddy ever since. Like a little boxer, German Shepherd. He is the resident intern here, Player Coach. Completely useless. In fact, we're cleaning up after him quite a bit, but aside from that, he's great. So thank you.
No, no, absolutely. And you're a massive fan of podcasts, thank goodness. I'm
Sure am.
really happy you are. And it says you sometimes spend too much time on Reddit. So this is all good stuff. We're finding out about the entire Andrew person here. This is great.
Guilty. Absolutely.
So Andrew, let's go back. Let's go back in time a little bit and let's talk about, Andrew at 8, 9, 10 years old. Where did Andrew live and what kind of child was Andrew back then?
So I grew up in Middletown, New Jersey. I went to St. Leo the Great School, Christian Brothers Academy after that. Growing up, I was encouraged by my parents to be a well-rounded student, someone who's interested in all things, everything that I could have been interested in terms of sports and music. I was fortunately encouraged to go learn or seek out how to learn it myself, which was one of the big things that I think I'm able to use now, which is the initiative to go figure something out or go learn something, even if that resource isn't immediately available to you. So, grew up a baseball player, A lot of the player coach branding that you'll see at my agency is kind of baseball focused. And yeah, I was interested in politics at an early age. I ended up becoming the student body president of Christian Brothers Academy following that interest. And I just was very much into the communications world.
So that's so great. You've kind of gone home. I don't think I ever asked you if you were a student there. So it's kind of amazing because they're one of your clients. So it's so nice that you get to, now be on the other side, right?
It's one of those great full circle moments, and walking through the hallways, everything's changed and nothing's changed at the same time. But being able to come back and give back to a school where a lot of your talents were formed and a lot of those talents were encouraged, not only being able to come back and give back to the school, but also parenthetically show, hey, look what I can do, has been really cool. And it's been a great experience. So we've been able to give back in a lot of ways there. One of the more exciting projects that we came up with was I went in and pitched a Hall of Fame website to elevate what the Christian Brothers Academy Alumni Hall of Fame would mean, hopefully attracting more people to want to get back to the school, be a part of things, and know that that's there. Then we actually put that Hall of Fame on a hallway in a wall. So we made a whole design with QR codes featuring every single inductee, where you can go up and QR code the QR code right underneath their photo, and the website will pop up on your phone. So I've been able to even think outside of the box in a lot of ways there that I think has kind of benefited the organization and the community there. And it's been great.
That's amazing. I love that. And that's kind of the story, that I love sharing is you just never know where you're sitting right now and what you're doing right now, where it's going to lead you to. As you sat in the classrooms there, you never had a clue you were going to create a Hall of Fame hallway in the middle of your school.
Couldn't have thought that. We even recently were able to put together a documentary of the 65th anniversary of Christian Brothers Academy. We brought in Chris Carino, who's the announcer for the Brooklyn Nets games, who has a connection to CBA. I think he had a son who graduated a year ago. We went down to the basement literally and pulled out 40, 50-year-old film. We got the film digitized and put together as best as we could surmise a Ken Burns type of film for 15 minutes on the beginnings of the school all the way until now, and everything they've been able to do. And that was probably the most rewarding project that I've been able to work on there, because for future generations to come, we've hopefully established a template that can continue to be built on. But these stories are no longer at risk of being lost. So that was a big, important project for us as well.
People don't realize we're creating history right now for people in the future. So, this conversation, if it lasts, people will be hearing all about what you've done, and you were the one who started it, in the way of creating the hallway. So that's pretty amazing. So tell me now, when you went to, finish school, what did you decide you wanted to be when you grew up?
Real talk, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and I still kind of do. It was
All right. I find out all these things, new things about people I know. And so this is a pro wrestler. I get it.
there's all off camera, and I think this is on purpose. You'll have WWF magazines. There's a wrestling belt elsewhere over here too. I was interested in the arts, so during high school, I ended up moving away from sports where I had been most comfortable for a number of different reasons we can probably get into, and then I moved into theater and comedy because that's what I was drawn to. I was drawn to especially improv comedy and things like that. Going through college, I decided communications is where I felt most comfortable because it was most natural for me. I could get up after a while, and because of my improv experience, speak to an audience off the top of my head for 90 minutes and feel more comfortable than a one-on-one conversation, to be completely honest with you. So coming out of college, I had my eyes in a couple different places, and CNN is actually where I landed inside the newsroom there. I had a couple of friends who had brothers who worked there, and I worked in the news gathering international desk down in Atlanta as an internship in 2007. Ended up working on their morning show when I graduated in 2008, and lasted all of, I think, 3 months because I was working overnights, and massive life lesson to learn. Uh, Great opportunities that look like great opportunities still might be that, but they might not be the best for you in the long run. And don't go chasing uh, waterfalls or big brand names or opportunities that you think might be right for you if they actually might not be. So I think over that time, in those 3 months, I've lost like 20 pounds and
Mm.
did not really see much of a path forward for myself. So I jumped into advertising. That's where I've been ever since.
Oh wow, CNN. I had no idea that. Look at the see, like I said, I learned something new. This is great.
In those
You
three
keep
months,
going. You keep going, and I'm really going to know a lot more about this. Is going uncovering all Andrew things here.
well, the thing is, my therapist canceled on me last week, so this is more of like one of those types of things. So I was actually in my time there at CNN. I was there for the night of the Obama election, which was also a really interesting historical moment because no matter where you are on the political spectrum, you get to see what a newsroom looks like during a presidential election. The conversations that are had from the inside of the newsroom, the way that they're looking at other competitors reporting, and things like that. It was a really great early insight to the way that mass communication works, and it kind of shaped a lot of my worldview today and the way that we operate here at Player Coach.
Wow. All right, I have to ask because you brought it up. What is the newsroom like on a election night?
On an election night, the newsroom is very well aware that they're being watched. The newsroom on air is being watched as much as the people who are probably in the newsroom producing the news. There are tours going through. They're well aware that there's going to be scrutiny. Everybody's well aware, depending on what platform or channel you work on, what the bias or the thought on what your bias might be. And there were a number of meetings saying, I don't care if you're an Obama guy. I don't care if you're a McCain guy. And I forgot who the third party was at the time. It might have been Jill Stein or something to that effect, Ralph Nader. I don't want you celebrating. I don't want you getting upset, no matter what the outcome is. Just make sure that you are going along with like business as usual. And I thought that was one of the more interesting conversations that had been had on the inside because that was probably the last thing that you'd expect hearing what you hear about cable news out there.
No, that's good because so many people have talked the opposite way and feel like it's not talked like that. So it's nice to be able to put this out into the open and share that piece.
This is also 2008, so a whole lot has happened culturally, and I'm
Yeah,
sure since then. But that was at least my
a
experience.
whole lot.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, it's just nice to know that we can pray, and can continue that way. But life is definitely changed.
Right on.
So after CNN, what happened?
So I go from CNN into the new business team at a company called Euro RSCG, which became Havas. They're most well known for inventing the most interesting man in the world, Dos Equis. So I was fortunate enough to work on the team that would reach out to Heineken and try to pitch their global advertising business, which we actually did win. I've lost way more pitches than I won, but still learned quite a bit. Was able to work under the CEOs as a 23-year-old kid. Didn't sleep for a year, but again, it was an incredible experience that I just so happened to be fortunate enough to just. It was a role that was open when I was looking for it. The only advice that I could give to anyone, if there is the advice to give here, is for anyone in college. The reason I was able to slip from one industry to another so easily is because I had internships in college in all these different industries. Following your passion and trying to put time into each of that is probably going to pay off for you in the long term.
Oh, that is very important. People, and I think now, so more than ever, I hear so many more students wanting to intern because they know that it's very important. But for those who are unsure, and I feel like no matter what age we are, we should all have either a coach or a mentor. I think those are the two things that are so important, no matter where we are in our careers. Even at my age, I have mentors and coaches and
Yeah.
things like that. It's important.
Are you looking for a way to connect with a global audience? Join us on October 23rd for the Today's the Day Changemakers International Forum. Register for free at todayisthedayliveit.com. That's todayisthedayliveit.com. This one-day virtual forum brings together leaders, authors, CEOs, and entrepreneurs from around the world to provide powerful insights across 6 transformational panel discussions: Rising Through Uncertainty, The Burnout Breakthrough, Louder Than the Scroll, When Fundraising Follows Purpose, Becoming Who You Haven't Met Yet, and Entrepreneurship as a Global Connector. And also, sponsorship opportunities are available and customized to align with your organization's goals and ensure meaningful visibility. Options may include commercial spots during the forum, spotlight features on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast, social media mentions and recognition, potential interview opportunities, and creative recognition that maximizes your marketing investment. By joining us as a sponsor, you're not just supporting an event, you're fueling a global movement of connection, collaboration, and authentic impact. Together, we'll strengthen one another, build powerful connections, and walk away with actionable steps that create immediate positive change, both personally and professionally. So don't wait. Secure your spot today at todayisthedayliveit.com.
But let's talk about the music playground. So how did you wind up there?
So I'm someone who's always followed my passion and followed what I'm interested in. And having come from the advertising industry, there are so many different ways that you can work in that industry. You can be an accountant, sure. You can be a creative director. You can be a producer. I, as a producer, which I eventually became, started to excel at certain types of projects, animation being one of them, music being another one. It just had always been innate. I grew up playing guitar and piano. Again, had been doing a lot of comedy that usually involved some sort of music and things like that. So the projects that I ended up excelling on tended to be those animation music projects. Little by little, you work with enough creative partners and vendors in New York, and they will start asking if you want to join their team. And eventually, I just really did. Music somewhere that I never thought I could end up, and never thought I would end up. And eventually, I was pulled on as the president of the Music Playground. They exist, they still exist, to sync what's called sync music onto movies, TV shows, and ads. That is either, hey, let me pull a song from the catalog of 300 of my bands and artists, or hey, we have 5 composers on staff who can write a song for you custom with the lyrics that you want immediately. So that's what we did, and we worked with some of the bigger advertisers in the world and some of the smaller advertisers, and it was quite a wild 5 years.
Now, you recently, not too long ago, played in our AOK soiree where
Yeah,
you sang and you played your guitar. So you definitely have a talent. And so are you for those listening, we don't have that clip right now, but hopefully I'll be able to throw that in here somewhere.
I didn't win. Not only did I bring a judge, I introduced the judge to this. Still didn't win. Like, I'm trying to stack the deck here. That's how bad it went for me. So, no, we're kidding, but no, that was a blast, and I think the gala went the soiree went so well, and what a touching night! Like, all this, I was tearing up in a lot of the stories. I probably wasn't ready emotionally for half the stuff that came through that night, but the amount of talent on a lot of the students or a lot of the kids who were benefiting from the organization is incredible, and you can see how many lives were touched just by the amount of people in that room. So appreciate you having me to be a part of it.
Thank you. For those who are listening who may not know, so the other hat that I wear, as Andrew wears lots of hats, and we're in the midst of figuring them all out right now and going through them, is the Zach G. Uploader Kids Foundation, as I'm the co-founder and CEO. Andrew is recently joined our AOK advisory committee, and then he decided to take the leap of faith and break out that guitar and his voice and perform at one of our events to help raise money. So we're grateful for that. So thank you for that, Andrew.
No, of course. Hope to be back next year.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. But yes, you know what? It's not about winning. You got up there and you opened the show, and it was such a great. I kind of want to share that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you remember what you said in the very beginning of that performance?
I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah. And nobody, and you think about that, right? Some people will come on here and say, well, I'm not really a change maker. And I'm like, we all are. Nobody's just a regular guy, and nobody's not a change maker. Everybody is in their own way special, and nobody's ordinary, because we're all extraordinary in the work that we do. So, and I think what happened though is when you did that, by doing that, you diffused everybody, and everybody wanted you to excel, because they all just were like, this guy is just so down to earth, and so that's what I love about change makers and interviewing incredible people. Their egos are at the door, and everybody just does things heart-centered. As you were sharing about your Hall of Fame and what you've done, so let's talk a little bit more about your nonprofit work, since we're on
Sure.
nonprofits, and you're working with us, and you've done a lot of other things.
Yeah, I do love to work with nonprofits as best I can. We are also partnered with Rising Treetops in Oakhurst. That is a massive camp for children to adults with disabilities, ages 0 to in the 90s. They stayed open over COVID. In fact, a lot of the people who work at Rising Treetops did not leave the campus during COVID. Like the actual spot itself, they did not leave once for groceries or anything like that. Um,
Um,
they are an incredible partner. They get a lot of work from CBA and a lot of the volunteers from over there too. It's been an incredible relationship. So they're always looking for people. They can always use donations, and I would encourage everybody to go check out Rising Treetops.
No, well, thank you for sharing that. Absolutely, including myself. I'd love to have their people on and talk to them and share their story. I think it would be wonderful to be able to do that. Maybe you can co-host for that one.
Love to. Caitlin Bovo, come on down. We'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. I love having co-hosts. It's lots of fun. We always have a really good time. So tell us more about how you went from the music playground to where you are now. And the reason I love sharing these kinds of stories, just for those listening, is not just because we want to share people's bios with you. It's really about how we change throughout the course of our life. And where we start is never where we end, or where we are now is not going to be where we stay. So tell us a little bit about that transition from music playground to where you are now.
Yeah, I'm going to run it back a little bit to improv principles because I think that
Yes.
in my life, a lot of my guiding principles were learned on an improv stage one way or another. And one of the ways that is just the principle of yes and. So effectively, to build a scene, if you're having a conversation with one person, one other person scene, the scene's reality hinges upon the idea that you both agree upon that reality. What does that mean? That means if I'm talking to Jody and I say, Jody, you made the best hamburger in the world, and she said, this is a hot dog, you psychopath. That's the end of the scene, right? But with the idea of yes and, you don't know where this is going to go, but you've committed to yourself that you're going to follow it, heighten it, and do whatever you need to do just to continue the reality of that scene. I think the same is applicable to life in a lot of ways. So to circle this back to the music playground, I was the president there for about 4 years. And that means you are on a musician schedule. You are out there talking about your company on planes, traveling once or twice a month, maybe 3 times. You are at 2 or 3 parties per week. Your life usually isn't your own. Forget about dating. That's probably not going to be happening unless you're dating within your industry. It is just one of those lifestyles that is not sustainable over time. So, as successful as I was and as happy as I was being in a music industry that had always seemed like a house on a shiny hill, somewhere I'd always wanted to be. By 2020, I was just done. And it to me felt like one of those things where you had mentioned before, I'm a big fan of podcasts. It just felt to me like I was working in a chocolate factory, eating nothing but chocolate for years and years and years. It's only recently that I've been able to get back into music myself. It just had been too much. So at that point, out of not having anything else that I felt like I could do, I started building my own LLC. Player Coach is a brand that I built based off of the idea of how I used to manage my team. So I was fortunately, in a lot of ways, one of the younger members of my team, sometimes running those teams. And I always thought the best way to go about managing a team with people who might be more experienced in some ways, or older, or have been at the company longer, or lesser, even whatever it might be, is to be a player coach where you're in there leading the charge from the inside, but asking nobody to do anything that you wouldn't want to do. So I built this consultancy off of the back of a lot of the experience that I had, with the idea being if you were to bring a New York global ad agency know-how, a lot of the experience, maybe some of the connections and vendors that I've worked with, into a world where maybe you're not charging clients as much because you're only talking about one office or two offices in Asbury Park rather than Park Avenue renting a whole building. I think the democratization of technology has made it so that you can start reaching clients. So that was my bet in 2020, that I would start my own consultancy as Andrew Stadelberger at Player Coach. And over time, I was just fortunate enough to pick up one client after another. And this consultancy, which was one guy and his computer, just me, ended up being something where I just worked with this edit team consistently enough that it felt like they're part of the team. We brought them on board. Same with the design team. And then I started bringing on partners in different disciplines like targeted advertising or LinkedIn optimization, things that our clients are really looking for. And a few years later, we've very slowly but surely, in a thoughtful way, grown this business to an ad agency. And we're hoping to expand it a little bit further. We have some thoughts in terms of where we're going, especially in the AI age with a whole lot of competition. But the idea was 5 years ago, I just needed to do something to take a step forward. And I didn't think that I would be at the point where I could own my own agency, let alone be my own boss in 5 years. But I don't think I had a choice, or I didn't feel like I did back in the day. So that's how I got here.
So I get that because when you have a calling to something or you know in your heart this is the place you want to head towards, sometimes it's hard though. So for those listening, right, you said something and you kind of said it in passing. And I really would love it if you could dive a little deeper in it. You talked about I was getting one client after another, right? It sounds so easy for you, which is awesome. But I know behind that it's not that walk in the park all the time. It isn't for many and most people. And that's why many don't start their own companies. And I think one of the things that I hate that people do, and I'm sorry, I want to put this in here because I'd love your advice on this as well. They'll throw, oh, only X percentage of companies that you start on your own actually make it past the 3-year mark. So there's those naysayers out there when you tell them, I'm going to start this thing, and I've been that person and I am that person. People still say, you make money doing that, or you're going to be okay with that. It's horrible when people do that. So let's start with the first question, which is, you said one after another, which sounds great, but tell us what's the magic pill, the magic sauce, the formula.
The magic sauce is that I probably miscommunicated how easy it was because it's not easy at all.
Right.
It's not. It's one of those things where um, I put myself out there and I started making phone calls. It is certainly not easy to, especially at the start, sell yourself as something that you haven't necessarily proven yourself to be. I have proven that I can run creative campaigns and creative companies, but not one that has started myself and not one that's more generalized to saying, hey, we can rebrand you and put you out there and target the people you need to target. Let us take care of everything. It's always been a little bit more generalized than that. So basically, the idea with starting Player Coach was putting myself out there and figuring out how to talk about what my skill sets are. And eventually, somebody made a phone call and said, hey, I know that you are able to do a little bit of creative work. You might need something over at Christian Brothers Academy that could be a little bit congruent to what you're doing, but could also be a little bit out there. So I was offered the alumni director role there. And I, in my own way, came to them with what a business plan would look like. It was not the traditional, let's, call everybody on the phone and try to get them all to a happy hour, which I think there's a lot of room for that in this world. But there's a lot of new ways of connecting people digitally and making sure that your stories and narratives are actually being told out there. To me, what's the point of doing a lot of great work and getting all your alumni together if everybody else isn't aware of it? And there's just so many ways to scale what they're doing. Through that, I was fortunate enough to just show up to enough events that they ran and do enough really solid work that a few people through that community actually reached out to me who have businesses. Some of them, good friends of mine named Bart Henderson, connected me through other communities that they've run. But through Christian Brothers Academy, I took a couple of opportunities that I didn't think were going to go anywhere except for a one-time win for the business or for my clients that actually ended up breaking into a completely new era of my company. So, for instance, at Christian Brothers Academy, I had pitched them on taking their school store, turning it over to Shopify. So rather than everything being done by hand, make sure that you can track P&Ls, when inventory is buying and selling, what time of year, who it is, better ways to just target, but also do accounting. People had seen the work that I was able to do. And Faraday actually uh, at the Shrewsbury Grove reached out and said, hey, we've noticed what you're up to. We're wondering if you guys want to partner for a happy hour. So we actually partnered with Faraday for a happy hour. The end of that story is, by the way, that there's a lot of Faraday slash CBA gear up in the Academy store, which is great. We formed a corporate partnership. But during that happy hour, the manager Faraday had also run into the 10th generation um, family member running Laird and Company, which is America's oldest distiller, first distillers. Literally, George Washington is in the history books writing them, asking them for their apple brandy recipe. And you could imagine that maybe some historical moments might have been encouraged by apple brandy, who knows? But anyway, Gerard Laird Dunn, who is brilliantly running the company right now, was introduced to me at this happy hour as he was pouring a lot of the old fashioned drinks, and he became a client of mine. And I think it's just one of those things where, for me, especially who is very much an introvert, someone who grew up very much on the internet and MySpace, and does have to push myself sometimes to get out the door and be social. You just got to take the opportunities out there, tell people who you are, and make sure that you just show up. I think that's been the big thing for me. So, uh, I also am a big advocate of putting yourself out there online, telling people what you're doing, even if you only have X amount of followers. So this is ironic for me and kind of a sore subject, but we're able to drive lots of engagement followers for our clients. I have not taken the time yet to drive all of that for our own business. However, the people who are following us are very engaged, and a lot of those people have actually become very good clients of ours. So even if you've only got a following of 200 people, 250 people, those are people who are watching, and there might be opportunities there that you might not be aware of. People are on different platforms, so make sure that if you're on LinkedIn and Instagram, you're posting your stories on both. Your stories being a narrative, if it's a blog here or a video there or whatever you need it to be. But it's just putting yourself out there. But no, it is not easy. I actually just came from a networking coffee this morning at 8 a.m. and I'm pushing myself to try to get to one kind of meeting, networking event or something per day as a business owner, hopefully this year. So as best I can. Over time, that looks like one maybe after another, but it's a ton of work, shaking hands, getting to know people and following up, being persistent.
And nobody would think, you talk about improv. So improv and introvert, that doesn't go together, but
Sure
I
does.
understand. Right, right, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm an introvert too at times, right? I don't love walking into networking events by myself, especially in a new area where I don't know anyone.
Tough to do.
Like, if I decide to tomorrow go to I live over here in Monmouth Ocean County and I know a lot of people here, but if I go to Mercer County and I've used to work there for years, but I don't know like the people as much anymore, I still feel kind of awkward walking into another chamber event for a minute. And then
Sure.
you try, right? But it's getting in that door. That's the hardest thing. And driving there thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So that's hard.
And
And
people are
getting over
generally
that.
nice. Yeah, and I'm sorry to step. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
like,
no, keep going.
yeah, when people are generally nice when you walk into those environments. The first MODC event is actually when I met you, and I walked in there and you were very kind to me, but I was terrified because I didn't know anybody. But I think the parallel between introversion and improv actually, to me, makes sense in the way that when I was running a lot of when I was the head of some of the other companies, music companies, and advertising companies that I spoke about in the past, or at least was in some sort of sales capacity, sitting down one on one or one on three or two is really tough for me. I think that's because you're opening yourself up in a lot of ways. Whereas in improv, I'm on stage. It doesn't matter if there's 100,000 people in the audience. I don't have to show so much of myself because there aren't people asking me questions about me, deep diving. There's not a lot that I need to really put out there except for entertaining people and kind of following the flow of the laughter and everything like that. But it's still
Right.
connect with people and it's still a way to feel that humanity, I think. And introversion to me is more about the energy it kind of takes. Do you get energy or get energy taken away from interpersonal communication? And I try to balance that out because it's, I think, a superpower in a lot of ways. I think introverts have an ability to see the world in a certain way, analyze a little bit more for better or for worse. Um, but it can be a double-edged sword too, because then it can stop you from going out when you need to. Can you get a little bit in your head? Entrepreneurialism is not easy, and that can also be an added challenge to get over. So, it's a superpower and kind of a liability at the same time, as far as I can tell.
No, and I think for me, I was an introvert, like as a kid growing up. I wanted to hide under the desk if a teacher called on me, and then even into my early 20s. But then something switched, and then I became an introvert extrovert, and then I flipped and became an extrovert introvert. right?
Yep.
So, but with the change, especially working from home, you know, when you have an office in your home, trying to get out and
Yep.
go to all those things, if you don't do it for a long time, it's like something like you miss a beat almost. So you have to kind of get rejuvenated to do it again.
I think every generation has its challenges and opportunities as well as it pertains to business. And I'm like only 5 years old in this world. So like in terms of being in this business world, but from what I can tell, I think one of the big issues of our era, one of the big challenges that I think is a little bit more silent that we're trying to start working around is working from home is great. And I'm a big advocate of it, especially for people with families. I'll eventually hopefully have a family of my own. But we're broadcasting right now from Player Coach in Asbury Park. I got this office because it felt like it was critical for me. I was losing my mind. I could absolutely profitably run a business from a home office, but after a while, you get to interact with people. So I am in an office building right now with about 12 other companies on this floor and a giant art studio downstairs where we actually were able to meet one of our business partners who just came on, Karen Prop. You just got to put yourself in a space now, and I think it's harder to do. Where if you're not required to be around people or in an office setting, just it's I think it's mission critical, frankly.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I've worked from home for so long, but go had the ability to go in and out of offices. But now that I'm on my own, it's like, do I want that overhead? And I think a lot of people struggle with that piece of it for sure.
Exactly, definitely.
Yeah,
So
that's the hard.
yeah, I did my best to get as much value as it out of it as I could as well. So I looked for an office space with a lot of offices nearby, other businesses. Maybe there's some kind of congruency in the network. But I also set up a video studio here too. So we're doing our own content, bringing our clients in to do their own content as well. This flag in the background changes based on who's speaking. It's an American flag for a Laird company, things like that. So we're trying to get as many bites out of the apple as we can here.
I think that's awesome.
The book is coming. The book is coming. Today is the Day Live It will be published in late January 2026. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com to sign up and be the first to know when pre-orders are available. Live It is the Today's the Day changemaker story. A story that began with one bold decision I made to spark a movement and create a platform for authentic connection and community. It showcases how a single choice can shift the trajectory of one life and ripple outward to transform the lives of many. Within these pages, you'll hear from 30 changemakers across the globe, from California to Uganda, sharing their voices, their defining shifts, and the impact they've made by choosing courage over fear, even when it seemed impossible. This isn't just a book. It's an invitation for you to believe in the power of one voice, your own. Stay tuned for the official author reveal coming soon, and don't forget to sign up at todayisthedayliveit.com so you don't miss your chance to pre-order. Because today is the day. Live It is more than a book. It's a movement.
I want to just go back to what I talked about in regards to people saying, oh, well, businesses fail only after X amount of time. And also real fast, now that I think about it, this is my ADHD mind, is that also the piece of it is when you introduce yourself as a president of the music playground and now the founder of Player Coach, have you found that there's a difference about the way you're treated in the fact that you had this big brand behind you and now you are the brand? Have you felt that at all?
Um, it's a little bit different. It's kind of apples and oranges in a way to me because we're talking about two different markets at this point. So when I was
Hmm.
the president of the Music Playground, that was very much a New York centric market, and then you're bouncing around to Chicago and Austin and LA and places like that. But Player Coach is really meant for the Jersey Shore, and it's meant for at the moment New Jersey. Look, we're looking for mid-sized businesses, and we're working with successful mid-sized businesses who maybe don't necessarily have the time or the connections at the moment to be doing proper targeted advertising, building their brand, telling their stories, and things like that out there. But because of that, I haven't really been speaking to some of the same people. I do see that there's a little bit more interest down here because there is less competition. And I think what we're able to offer is something that people understand the value of, but haven't necessarily seen a lot of yet, because we've just been fortunate enough to be, or at least a lot of my business partners and I have been fortunate enough to be in a place where we're using a lot of the tools. And some of my business partners are actually, I didn't mention this before, fractionally with us. So I am full-time here, player coach, as is much of the team. But we have brought in some industry leaders in other places who are fortunately approved by places like Google and a couple of other larger tech companies to work with us. So one of my business partners, Ting Ting, is currently moving to Miami to help uh, basically sit at the intersection of AI and marketing, leading a lot of major brands like Unilever and things like that on their strategies. And it's just kind of a completely different game. So I do look forward to going to see a lot of my old colleagues up there again. I just think the flow of the industry kind of changes in so many different ways that um, I don't really see too much of a difference at the moment.
No, that's good. That's good because when I started a nonprofit compared to when I worked for another nonprofit, being on my own, giving out my business card under being the founder of something as opposed to having a national organization behind me was a very different feel. And I often ask that question of people because I feel like when you hold a title working for a national or larger organization, as opposed to working for yourself, sometimes the respect from the other side at different events and things like that is not the same. And so that I've personally experienced that.
You know, now that you mention it, we are a couple years down the road. There was a very tough year too, right outside of having left the music playground, which was again a painful experience for me. It was a very tough decision for me to make, and it wasn't made lightly. But there was a year or two with quite a bit of insecurity. It's maybe the voices you hear out there being echoed by those inside of your head, but I do
Yeah.
hear, you hear from the grapevine. A phrase or two from friends, like what happened and where is AIDS. I think I heard, I'll just be completely honest, at some point, I heard from an old colleague, there's discussion around what's Andrew doing. He went from president of the music playground to working at a high school, not necessarily understanding the journey I'm on. And that's something that's tough to get over. And I think the reality is those conversations are going to happen um, with or without you there. The world's going to turn without you. You got to probably find a way to shut that off. Easier said than done. But at the same time, it gave me motivation to get to a point where I was going to be comfortable and get respect, or at least enough respect that I'm running a legitimate business, a profitable business, one that will continue to grow. And over time, I think actually some of the bigger wins personally for me were pulling some of my better clients or some of my better colleagues from that world to my company, which helped legitimize what we're doing here and add to what we're doing. So there was a really tough moment for a year or two where I was very down on myself. Probably wasn't a lot of fun to be around, um, and struggling. And a lot of that had to do with feelings of insecurity, probably partly myself and partly what I'm thinking everybody else is seeing and understanding out there. I think at the same time, you might agree, you do start finding out who your people are. And that's not like a you're with us or against us type of situation, but there are people who will continue to show up for you in ways that you're probably surprised by. So that was a very brutal experience, actually, now that you mention it. But I'm fortunate enough that I actually, I'm feeling fortunate enough right now that I forgot about it and I can kind of focus on just having a profitable business now that's legitimate. But there was a long time, probably about 12 to 18 months, even more than that, where I felt like I needed to fight for the legitimacy of what we're doing for anybody watching.
And I appreciate you sharing that. And it's very important to me with the podcast to share those kinds of stories because there's somebody listening out there driving somewhere saying, possibly, because that was me years and years ago, I love my job, but this is not where I want to be. I really want to take this leap of faith, but all I'm hearing is all the negative reasons why I shouldn't do it. And I want people to know we all have felt that way. And
Yep.
I feel like life is so short. If you're listening to this and there's something that's in your ear saying, this is really where I want to be and what I really love, there's two people here talking to you saying it is possible because I always felt like it was impossible and never knew how I was going to get to this seat. And so that's why I ask you to share kind of some of those hardships, only for the
Or
people listening to say, hey, it's possible.
no, absolutely. I've had more like crying myself to sleep nights in the past 5 years than I think I did for the time before that. for any reason of being fearful of losing a big client over something that you'll probably forget about in a week, but fear of not being able to grow enough. What if this whole thing goes away? What if the economy tanks? So many day-to-day things that I thought were huge problems at the time, that ended up being okay, but it's all worth it, I think, to me. And I also want to point out that one of the things I'm always mystified by and inspired by and excited by, which I think is a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing here, is that we live in a world where technology and information has been democratized to the point where, an Encyclopedia Britannica used to cost however many $100 and weigh so much that you can't like bring it to college, right? It's so long ago. But now you've got the internet at your fingertips. You've got so many people uploading videos every day on how to optimize AI on YouTube that you can start learning things to get yourself well ahead of the game. And I'm not saying that every educational resource on YouTube is relevant or efficient or effective. It's probably quite the opposite. But the resources are out there for people who want to take a little extra time and try to learn something new. And I think we live in an economy now too, where you're connected in a way where it's easy to build a business, start a side hustle, see if it's going to be successful. If you can get the time, I'm not saying that everybody's got the time or the ability, but it was something that I taught myself, and this business does not look the same as it did 5 years ago. As much as technology has changed and what clients are looking for in culture has changed, we've changed what we're doing too. And we're also continuing to evolve as AI gets integrated into the fold a little bit. So I think for anybody looking to start their own business, just do a little research. My philosophy has always been 20 minutes a day. Even if you don't want to do it, you're going to find that in a week you're further along and in a cadence where eventually, hopefully, you become unstoppable.
I love that. I love that. There's so much to learn from you and so much to share. I want to make sure we hit the points that you really want the world to know about. I mean, and I just want to say a special thank you to the 102 countries that have downloaded this podcast and over 1,044 cities around the globe. So thank you to everybody who's ever listened and downloaded and will continue to do so. What else do we need to know about Andrew?
Oh boy, howdy. I don't know. Feel free to ask away. I'm very excited about what we're doing here and where I'm going personally, and I think the way that I can help build a community network out here. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have on anything.
Well, I think pivotal moment for you in your life.
Um, Pivotal moment for me is, I mean, I mentioned this in a pre-document or a pre-questionnaire. I lost my father on September 11th. He was the president of the Lincroft Little League at the time of his passing. As best we can remember, he's actually got a field dedicated in his name, which is one of the more proud things that I can say. He, as best we know, uh, went back in to help people out, and that has always been who he was, and that's who I'm aiming to be in a lot of ways. I'm never going to be the man he was, excuse me,
No, that's real, and we're human beings.
in a lot of ways, but I very much feel like his presence is still with me to this day. So he was a volunteer in his free time, an incredible father, baseball coach, and I still keep a lot of those lessons with me. Do a little bit each day. Do what you don't want to do. Those things. Do those things first. Follow your passions. Be as upfront and honest as you can be, and help your community. And all of those principles I take with me to this day. So we still remember him every day and honor him on the anniversary with a lot of people that we've fortunately or unfortunately become pretty close with through that experience. But um, yeah, so Middletown, where we're from, was, as far as we can tell, the town that was hit the hardest outside of New York um, from that experience. So that has been probably the most relevant experience to everything that I'm doing to me. And I don't know if anybody else there has lost a parent or someone they care about early in life, but it feels like there is this stopwatch there's this countdown clock and there's this constant march of time is moving pretty quickly. So I think I have always been someone who, if I see an opportunity or a passion or something I'm interested in, I get on that now because you never really know. So um, I think that's probably the most relevant experience that I've got, and it's going to stick with me forever. And it's tough not to, right? Like you've got the anniversaries coming up every year, and it's inescapable online. It's one of those things you learn to live with. But again, like I said, I've met some incredible people through this experience as well. So um, really proud to say that.
How old were you?
15.
Yeah, so that's really hard. And
Yeah.
you mentioned early on about your sports and how that kind of you kind of alluded that there was something there about sports. Was there something more that you wanted to share, and was it related to your dad?
It was. I mean, I was pretty good at baseball, I like to think. But around the time that we lost him being my mentor, my baseball coach, and my father, I just lost it. It was something that I didn't want to pick up. It was a source of pain for a really long time. We've only recently come back around to the game. But I started figuring out what else I was interested in, and comedy just felt natural to me. Um, I don't know if everybody would agree with that, but I started finding classes, and just luckily, there was a guy named Kurt Brownell, CBA graduate, who came to give a talk about God knows what. I think it's about like oil, or I don't know. But it was mentioned that he was an improv comedian at the People's Improv Theater too, and this is a year after I lost my father. And I went up to him and I said, I want to learn. Just teach me what you know. And I got the okay to take the train up from, as a 16-year-old, Middletown, New Jersey, to the city once a week, and then sometimes on the weekends to practice comedy. And it was my way of moving on.
Do you still like doing comedy?
Love it. So it's not something I'm able to do too often. To do a for comedy, for the most part, you need to do one man stand up comedy show, which stand up has never been something I've shied away from, but it's never something that I feel like I've really excelled at or wanted to excel at, to be honest with you. Um, and I just it's one of those things where the 10,000 hour thing is 100% true. Like you do need to put in your 10,000 hours to get good at that type of thing. Um, I will do improv whenever there's a group around. It's one of those things where it's not necessarily like riding a bike. But as long as there's a couple of other people who know the principles, you can always jump right into it. I was a part of the improv jam group in Red Bank, New Jersey, growing up around the 2004 era. A lot of those guys ended up writing the Showtime show Yellow Jackets, if anybody's familiar with that. So shout out Rich Moynihan. But as much as I can still do comedy, you hopefully will see if anybody is, after all my crying here, interested in following us online. You're going to start seeing us put ourselves out there at Player Coach, not just in terms of talking about things that we're doing, which we are ad nauseum, but I'm also looking to infuse a little bit of our personalities in there too. I think narrative content is one of those things that's always going to be interesting to people, and I want to show a little bit more of who we are, and so I'm trying to infuse that into the things we're doing too. But I think the comedy background manifests itself into so many different things. One other major experience and life milestone that I had was starting something called the Mike NYC. And this was an ongoing performing arts series that sold out the bitter end in New York monthly for a couple of years until, again, COVID came through and killed it. But I was hosting those shows too, one by one. And that was very successful, on camera stream to 20,000 people at one point. So I'm always using the comedy chops, even if it's not to be funny, but just to be able to host something, move something along. Um, things like comedy and performing are really about reading the vibe and the energy of the room, knowing where you want to go with something. And I still use that to this day. So yeah, I've since come around on baseball again, but I've also taken whatever experience and decided I've always want to have a passion that I'm following. And even at a young age, I was headed up to the city to do a lot of comedy, and I'm glad I did. It's always going to be there.
Well, a couple things real quick now. That's my mind is whirling here. First of all, I want to just tell you how unbelievably grateful I am that you're sharing your story, and as difficult as it is. But we all need to understand that being vulnerable and sharing really does help bring people together. So thank you for sharing that, because there'll be somebody listening who needed to hear that, who may be in the same situation or recently lost a parent. It's a really hardship. And one of my other guests who I would love to introduce you to, who's been part of this podcast, he lost his mother at only a couple of months old in a car accident that he was actually in, that every bone in his body as an infant was broken. And so he never got to actually even meet his mom. And she saved him from in that car because there were no seatbelts back then. And so what a horrible, but he went to comedy too. That's the interesting part. So I would love to make, I love making those types of connections, because I think comedy does come in grief. I think it's very important. And I'm actually part of something coming up called Humor Camp, which I can talk about another time, but I'm very excited about it. And I'll tell you about it offline.
Okay.
But now I'm thinking, well, maybe Andrew, since you're on the advisory committee for AOK, maybe we should have a comedy night fundraiser. That could be super fun.
I don't disagree. I think those are super fun, very effective, and you can even throw some amateurs up there. And I know that there's a lot of like local well-known comedians too, but I think that'd be great.
Like Andrew Stadelberger.
Like who? Oh, I've never. Yeah. I'll see if I could write something. That would be a situation where I'd see if I could do a little stand-up and write for you guys.
That would be so cool. That'd be so cool. Let me ask you this. Book that you read that, before we go, because I know we're at our time, but book that you read that was pivotal for you. Anything stand out?
Yes. I'm looking at the books on my shelf right now. Ishmael is the first one I can think about. And it might not be the best answer, but Ishmael is if anybody's familiar with it, it's kind of a philosophy book, and it's going to sound ridiculous talking about it, but effectively it's 80% around conversation. 80% of the book is a conversation. The conversation is between a man and a gorilla. This gorilla is behind a cage, and he's talking to the man through his mind, and the man is sitting there talking to him. It's a conversation about philosophy and the way that these two different animals see the world. I'm a gorilla, so I see things this way. The way that you humans work doesn't really quite make sense to me. The human's indignant, wants to understand why the gorilla doesn't see things his way. And you start seeing just a different way of looking at the world. And not to say that I agree with any philosophies that are put out there, or not to say there's even any philosophies that are really, you know, championed in that book, but it's one of those things where in my life and in my relationships and in my work, especially in the creative, I'm trying to look at a different way of looking at things at all times, and making sure that I'm seeing all angles of things and becoming, being as empathetic as I can and understanding of everybody's position, because it's only going to be helpful. So Ishmael to me was a really great read. They had us read it back at Christian Brothers Academy, I believe, even funny enough, talking about taking on different other points of views and things like that. So that would be one. And can I slip another one in there?
Go right ahead.
Confessions of an Advertising Man by David Ogilvy is, for anybody in the advertising world, a must read, and I read it once a year, so I think that's really good. It's full of anecdotes. If anybody's ever seen Mad Men, just think of Don Draper as David Ogilvy. It's kind of a decent analog. And there's great stories in there. One quick story that I just always thought was really interesting, and there's a great little nugget of information, is David Ogilvy wanted to, let's just say, he was going after the CEO of GE because he wanted GE's business. Finds out that the CEO of GE is highly religious, and finds out which sermon or which Sunday mass he goes to every week. So he ends off, I don't know how he convinced the priest to do this, but he figures out which mass he goes to and convinces the priest that he's the one to give a guest homily. So now David Ogilvy is up giving a homily in front of the CEO of GE about his Christian faith and everything like that. Goes on to win the business. And I think that's such an interesting story because it's one, hilarious too. I just love stories about like American ingenuity and people just going after, hustling after opportunities like that. But I think it's, again, a reminder of put yourself in situations where there could be an opportunity and do it in a big way. And that's always what I've been able to at least try to do to help, promote what we're doing here. So that's my two.
Last question.
Yeah.
So you talked about at a young age what your dad's legacy was that he left behind, even very unexpectedly. What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
Man, I think about that a lot. Um, so I'm 39 years old right now, and I think soon to have a family, if all goes well. And I have been thinking about my life in like 5-year increments at a time, and only recently with dedicating this baseball field to my father and starting to work at CBA and working through a lot of the Hall of Fame stuff, have I thought about my own legacy. And I want to be remembered. I think like a lot of us do, by my friends and family, someone who um, was always a positive, fun person to be around, someone they wanted to be around, but also someone who added value to everybody's life. I'm always looking to find ways to better my own and find ways to help other people in their businesses and the things that they're doing that they're passionate about. I've always been a high tide raises all ships kind of guy, and I'm hoping to be remembered like that. But even if I'm not, I just want to be remembered and loved by my friends and family.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, because we all are originals and we don't realize how much we really truly are all interconnected because one step from each person really does have another effect down the road. It just may not be immediate. It's incredible when you think about it, right? Because if I didn't ever met you, then the things that you've helped and supported through it for AOK and for us and being there would have never happened, right? So that effect wouldn't have happened and helped us to maybe gain more revenue or sponsor another kid, whatever it would be. So we need to take more ownership and I think and value ourselves to understand how important we truly all are without ego, but the kindness and things that we can give out into the world has that really incredible ripple effect. That's just a beautiful thing. And thank you for being such a heart-centered human being, always willing to give and give back and caring, because not everybody shares that and shows that side of themselves. So thank you for that.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time.
Any last things you want to say before we close this out? Because we'll have you back again.
Uh, no, I really would love for the Mets to fix their pitching. I have a couple of thoughts on the bullpen. I don't know if we have time. Uh,
You
there's a
should write to them.
couple, you know what, we'll save that one for a second time, but no, aside from that, I really appreciate it. If anyone is looking to work with an advertising partner, creative agency partner, check us out, playercoach.co. You can look us up on Instagram, playercoach_agency. I'd love to hear from you guys. And thank you very much. That's it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Andrew, for
Thank you.
sharing today. I'm so excited. We get to continue to work together. And if you bring on any guests, you get to be my co-host.
Right.
So, start bringing them on. I'm ready to, we would have a really good time doing that together. So I would love that.
Can't
Um,
wait.
yes. One more time, playercoach.co.
.co. Advertising, marketing, targeted advertising. We're also actually, by the way, doing workshops now. So with the whole AI situation, we are not necessarily going to be creating all of our work with AI, but we do now want to teach you how to optimize your business using some of the tools that are out there. So we are starting to do workshops and consultations and things like that. So reach out to us for anything, anything that you could want to learn, we can teach. So let us know.
Oh, good. Sign me up for the workshops. I need it. So thank you.
Yeah,
Put me on that list, please.
love it.
Well, Andrew Stadelberger, thank you for sharing. I know we'll have you back on again soon. And I'm grateful for all that you do out there. And I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So, what steps, small or large, are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Thanks again, Andrew, and have a great week, everyone. Bye.